On today's DNVR Buffs Live, he's back. They're calling him Big Screen Scotty. Scott Procter is going to share his takeaways from Big 12 Media Day. We are on commitment watch. Quanell X Farrakhan to commit tomorrow. Some EA CFB 25 stuff and a whole lot more. Let's get into it.
Let's go!
Hell yeah. Welcome into DNVR Buffs Primetime, presented by Legal Pete's, everyone's go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers. We're coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. They're calling him Big Screen Scotty these days.
That's what they saying, I think. That's what they saying. I don't know about that nickname, but I take it. I like it. I don't mind it.
Scott Procter from the Coloradoan coming back on the show. Welcome back, brother.
Appreciate you, my boy. It's good to be back. Appreciate the invite. This last couple of days have been fun.
Yes.
For sure. We'll get into it, but yeah, glad to be here.
Let's just dive right into it. We got a lot to get to today, but let's put a bow on Big 12 Media Day stuff. We're going to have more content coming out. You're going to have more content coming out.
Yes, sir.
But what was your overall experience? Was this your first media day as well?
Yeah, this was my first media day for sure. So that was dope. It was a unique experience, man. It was hot as hot as all hell out there in Vegas, man. We was out there sitting in a crock pot, but it was dope inside Allegiant Stadium, man. It was dope to be there. It was fun just kind of taking in, kind of obviously, some of the new teams, getting to chop it up with, some of the players and coaches and whatnot. One of the takeaways that I had for sure that we can just get into right away is that the Big 12, its coaches and obviously its commissioner, they realize the asset that Colorado is to the Big 12, to the conference, with the eyes that Coach Prime brings, the viewership and whatnot. Colorado was the third most watched team in college football last season while going 4-8.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Average 6 million viewers per game. That's insane. So, I would expect something similar this year. You think everybody isn't going to be tuned in Week 1, Thursday night on ESPN to watch them play North Dakota State. Everybody
Right.
probably in the country is hoping and praying that they lose,
Of
and
course.
then Week 2, Nebraska, again, on ESPN, national television, night game. Lincoln, Nebraska is going to be crazy. And then the Colorado State, Rocky Mountain Showdown right after that. Those are 3 blockbuster games out the gate, and that's before the Big 12 slate even starts.
Yep.
So I think, obviously, like I said, Gundy said that, Big 12 is lucky to have Coach Prime in Colorado. Kyle Whittingham, Utah coach, said that, Coach Prime pretty much essentially put Colorado football back on the map. That's high praise from 2 of the longest tenured college football coaches in the country. So I think that says a lot. So that was dope for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Just comparing it to the Pac-12 Media Day last year, obviously, Colorado hadn't played a game yet, so it was all kind of new.
Right.
But, the conference was crumbling and stuff, so there's a lot going on. But it feels like this conference, and I don't know if this is the right term to use, but it's like more old school, football, true to football type of conference, So
I agree with that.
The respect for Coach Prime and what he's trying to do at this program is definitely felt a lot more in this conference than I think the previous one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there for sure.
Who else did you talk to out there, man?
Yeah, a few guys. I just had a story come out today. Go check that out on the Coloradoan with Arizona star receiver Shedeur McMillan, T-Mac. He has some really, really dope and interesting things to say about his matchup with Travis Hunter, which, matches, I think the best receiver in the Big 12 in T-Mac.
Yeah.
And the best corner in college football and Travis Hunter. That's a matchup that everybody wants to see. T-Mac talked about that and kind of what makes Travis special and, why, T-Mac looks forward to that matchup this year in particular. He said he thinks Travis got a little chip on his shoulder after what happened. You know, obviously T-Mac went for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Most of that wasn't on Travis. I think Travis was only in man coverage for about 2 of those catches. One of them was the one-handed touchdown grab, which was just a ridiculous play. T-Mac is a future NFL star.
He's a first rounder, bro.
100%. He's probably wide receiver 1 in the 2025, draft class, I would say. So that's a matchup that I'm looking forward to. Talk to Noah Fafita as well. He has some really dope things to say about Shedeur as well, which I'll have coming out soon. Talk to Tyler Jenkins, Houston's top offensive lineman, who was actually roommates with Tyler Johnson, Colorado offensive lineman Tyler Johnson last year. He was workout partners with Chidozie Nwankwo, the block bully. So talk to Jenkins about both of those Colorado transfers. So be on the lookout for that content. But it was dope. Had a one-on-one with Shiloh as well. Got a story coming on. He just talked to me about. It was really interesting. Just asking him about Livingston and kind of the new additions. And he was just saying how Preston Hodge, DJ McKinney in particular, I'll even throw Colton Hood in there as well.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys at corner is going to allow him to play more free. And obviously the additions at linebacker and defensive line as well, all 3 levels of the defense. He talked about how those additions are going to really allow him to play more free, hopefully, get more turnovers, interceptions, and whatnot. So that was dope for sure.
Yeah, we talked to Shiloh, and some of that same stuff came up, talking about Coach Livingston's defense and where Shiloh wanted to improve. And we know who Shiloh is, right? He's a thumper. He's headache gang CEO. He's going to get the ball out. He's going to create big hits. But he spoke about how he wanted to show off his range more. Play a lot more single high, kind of ball hawking style, safety, because we already know what he can do. And I think if he shows that, you'd see an increase in his draft stock, and we'd all think he's a more complete player.
Yeah, that's the next part of his game, right? He's just showing that he can really, and that's something he talked about, Jesse Bates film.
Yes, exactly.
Being able to play the middle of the field, being able to play the deep half of the field, and obviously show off range, be able to make plays on the ball, interceptions, pass deflections, and that's the next part of the game, because you mentioned the boy can hit.
Yeah.
He's a thumper for sure. He's an old school kind of safety, which I think there's a place for that in the NFL today. But you also obviously have to be able to show that you can be versatile and do other things depending on what scheme you play in the NFL. So obviously I think it's great that Shiloh knows what he needs to work on or what he has to work on. And I think Livingston, those additions that we talked about in the secondary and the linebacker group, and obviously up front as well, is going to allow him to kind of reach that potential.
Let's just talk about this defense in general then real quick, because when we went through spring football and I'd go talk to Neely after practice, he couldn't stop talking about how it was always the defense making plays. And, a lot of the focus is going to be on Shedeur and this offensive line, of course, going into the season. They're going to determine how well this team does, really.
Right.
But the defense is going to be so crucial because we always talk about sacks, right? If you cut Shedeur sacks in half, and if you not even double Colorado sacks, but maybe 50% more sacks on the defensive side of the ball, those are winning plays.
No doubt. No doubt about it. And I think that pass rush that's the biggest reason for me. Optimism for these defenses just up front, Talk about BJ Green, who Coach Sanders said this week has NFL draft first round potential. I think the same for Deion Hayes, the Pitt transfer, who again is entering his last year of college eligibility, has a lot to prove in terms of being able to do it over a full season in a conference like the Big 12 that can help his draft stock. Samuel Okunlola as well. And obviously the guys in the interior are going to be huge as well. They might not get the sack numbers that the edge guys will get, but they're going to be crucial to creating pressure, kind of limiting, closing on that pocket on the quarterback to allow those edge guys to kind of finish the deal. So I think this pass rush has the potential. I think it's going to be a top half of the Big 12 pass rush at the very least. I think that's their floor with some of the guys that they brought in. So, and again, you mentioned Warren Sapp, who wasn't here last year. I mean, that's a wild card. That could be, he could be somebody who unlocks, a BJ Green, a Deion Hayes, or maybe somebody who we're not talking about. Coach Prime, unsolicited, brought up Tajay McCoy,
yes, he did,
at media days, which I think that's somebody who people aren't really talking about, but the boy can play, and I don't think it was a coincidence that Coach Prime brought him up again, kind of unsolicited. So I think there are a handful of guys who we could look at it in season like, damn. He's probably the best pass rusher on the team,
Yeah, I went back last night and kind of just watching through some content, and I went back to that press conference just because we couldn't really hear Coach during that one.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But yeah, him mentioning Tajay McCoy, he was someone, at the end of last season, I know you weren't here yet, but I think it was right before the Utah game, we spoke to Nick Williams and we spoke to Jordan Dominic. And both of them mentioned Tajay McCoy as a guy to watch out for. So, he came in last year. I think he was like switching positions too. I think he played more inside as a recruit. And then his last year of high school kind of went more outside, and you could start to see more of the pass rush skills. Quincy Wiggins was also brought up. He said he's got to figure it all
100%.
out. But once he puts it together, it's an exciting time, man. Let's pivot to Juju here, and we're on commitment watch. The buff signal is out. We'll get to Quanell here in a second, but some big news when we were at Media Day. Before we got there, On 3 dropped Juju's 5-star.
Yep.
And then 247 drops Juju 30 spots in their rankings.
Yep. Odd.
You've only been on the beat since what, January or so, but you know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's just another breadcrumb.
Yep.
It's just another breadcrumb to me that's telling me that Juju Lewis flipping his commitment from USC to Colorado is imminent. I think it's really just a matter of time for now. I think there's been just too many coincidences and instances that point to that eventually, coming to fruition. Again, I don't want to speak on why he was dropped, but I can say that it just doesn't really make a ton of sense. Like I mentioned the story talking about it. He hasn't played down a football,
right?
So how do you even really justify? Or he hasn't played down a football since his rankings dropped. So how do you even justify? Him dropping 30-plus spots like 24/7 or going from a 5-star to a 4-star. I actually had a friend who I used to work with at my previous stop, Midwest kid, no connections to Colorado at all. Unsolicited DM, he goes, having Juju as the 7th-ranked quarterback in that class is laughable. And that's just facts.
Yeah.
Like, if you really objectively look at that class, and you think Juju, there's 6 quarterbacks in that class better than Julian Lewis, I don't think you're being for real. So again, I think there have been too many signs. Juju's the reality of him being able to start right away as a freshman, the relationship that he has with Coach Prime, the relationship his father T.C. Lewis has with Coach Prime, the relationship Juju has with those Georgia boys that are littered throughout the Colorado football roster. And now I think the recruiting services are starting to catch on, and their reaction, I suppose, is to drop him in the rankings for whatever. But I think most people out there who really know what's going on know that Julian Lewis is a 5-star talent. And we'll see what happens here in the next couple of days.
It seems like we're starting to wind down to something here. We're approaching about half a month out from that visit. After this weekend, we're going to be approaching a month very quickly. Right. So, again, Juju said he wanted to kind of make a decision before he starts his season, his last season of high school football. And we'll get into it more on the other side of the break here. But Quanell X Farrakhan is scheduled to commit tomorrow. Was on that visit with Juju on June 21st, right?
Yep, that weekend,
If he commits to Colorado, if Quanell commits to Colorado, we'd be waiting on Juju and Evan Haynes, the only 2 other guys who visited that weekend who haven't committed.
Everybody else,
damn near clean sweep, bro.
Which would be insane because if you look at that list, beforehand of guys who are coming, a lot of fans are like, man, if they can get 3-4 of these dudes, that's a heck of a haul. If you can get all of them, including Julian, including Farrakhan, including Chauncey Gooden, blue chip offensive lineman, including Mantrez Walker, Alex Graham on the other side of the ball. I mean, I think that's the 2025 class is shaping up. Again, it's not going to be about numbers. It's going to be about quality. And I think, assuming those couple of guys commit, the Buffs are definitely going to have that.
Yeah, and Coach Prime spoke about it, too, in that same press conference, the one off to the side towards the end of the day where and Corey said it on our show, too. But, as they go through the years here at Colorado, they're going to focus more on high school recruiting. Yeah. And you're already starting to see that this offseason.
No doubt about it. And I think, too, this is something I had in my story with Chauncey, and he brought this up unsolicited, and it's really cool that he gets it as a high school junior. Yeah. He goes, he said that he thinks that Colorado has the opportunity to have one of the best 2025 recruiting classes for what they need. Because obviously they're going to be transfer portal heavy, but they're going to be able to supplement that with young guys, young talented guys who are going to be able to learn from those experienced transfer guys. And it's just I think it's going to be the ideal kind of way to build a program here moving forward in this kind of changing landscape of college football.
Without a doubt, man. I mean, Coach Prime is ahead of the game in terms of keeping up with the landscape and team building here. Let's touch back on this on the other side of the break. We're going to shout out our friends over at Lucy Nicotine. Nicotine pouches in the news these days. There's a certain brand out there that might be a little bit harder to come by than they used to be. Our friends at Lucy have you covered, though. If you go to lucy.co/buffs, use that promo code BUFFS, BUFFS, you'll get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Lucy's are smooth, man. They have great flavors. It's 100% nicotine, no tobacco. It helps me out when I'm in those, those riding times, and I just need that little boost to keep on going. So shout out to our friends over at Lucy. Again, that's lucy.co. Use that promo code BUFFS, BUFFS, to get 20% off and always free shipping. Here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical, and every order is age verified. Also, shout out to our friends at True Fan Travel. We are headed to Lincoln. We are bringing a convoy of Buffs fans with us. Sign-ups are available now. If you want to come hang out with us, at the hotel and all that stuff. We're going to be doing some cool stuff on the road this year. RK's been teasing it, and I'm sure we're going to reveal it all here very, very soon. But you can come out on the road with us to Lincoln. TCU was a movie last year, and I have the same feeling about this Nebraska trip. Even if you don't want to do the whole package, you can reserve your spot for the tailgate. If you go to truefantravel.com/trips, book your spot today. Be on the lookout for more road trips brought to you by True Fan Travel. Sign-ups for these road trips are live while spots last. The Broncos, I think, are going to Tampa. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming on with True Fan Travel, and a lot more in the near future as well. So hit them up. Touching back on this Quanell X Farrakhan, tomorrow at 1:30, right? 1:30 our time?
I believe so.
On 3 Recruits.
Yep.
They're going to be streaming it live.
On YouTube, yep.
So make sure you all tune in. But there's another guy we should be looking out for in terms of commitment as well that you were telling me today.
Absolutely. Jace Thomas, a safety, also in the class of 2025, one of the highest rising prospects out of Louisiana in that class. He's also announcing his commitment tomorrow, I think at noon Mountain Time. Jace Thomas, again, he's only been playing actually safety, defensive back for a year. Former receiver, former tight end, really athletic dude with incredible ball skills. His dad was NFL pro, 10 or 12 years, I think, in the NFL as a cornerback, so he has that pedigree. I'm sure Coach Prime likes that. I'm sure Jace probably likes, having somebody like Coach Prime in his corner as a defensive back. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be interesting. I think Jace Thomas, he's considering LSU, Ole Miss, a couple other schools. So that's another name to look out for tomorrow that could end up being a Buff.
Yeah, he's from Destrehan.
Something like that.
I don't know.
I said Louisiana. I was going to leave that to you.
Destrehan High School in Destrehan, Louisiana. Chat, let me know how right I am there. But he is a 3-star 247 sports composite player, 531st overall, 46th ranked safety.
On3 actually just bumped him up this week to a 4-star.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, his father, Fred Thomas, played in the NFL a long time. But yeah, going back to this visit, I mean, if Quanell commits tomorrow, it's between UCLA, it sounds like. I think a few other schools are in there, but really it's UCLA and Colorado that we're expecting this decision to come down to. Evan Haynes, I don't think we've heard too much about him yet, but he was on that visit as well. I think is he a 26 kid, though?
No, I think he's also a 2025, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Definitely check that. But, he kind of seems like he's kind of taking a slow approach in terms of his recruiting. I know he just posted a couple offers earlier this week. So I think he's kind of slow playing his recruitment. I don't think he's really given any indication that, he wants to make a decision soon. But I tell you what, if Quanell commits, if Juju commits, I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Right.
I'll tell you that much.
Fellowship Christian School in Roswell, Georgia. He's a 2025 wide receiver. Already 6'3", 185, what he's listed at.
Yeah.
But I don't think really any indications. The last thing on his 247 timeline is that official visit to Colorado.
Yeah.
He has taken officials to Harvard, Kansas, North Carolina, Georgia Tech as well. So that's just a name to keep an eye on. But again, just to put a bow on this, it does feel like we're ending we're entering the end of maybe the Juju recruitment saga.
Yeah.
I think this Quanell Farrakhan commitment is a domino in that. And, the next few weeks, really, man. I mean, camp starts, July 29th, something like that. So
Yeah.
I'd expect sometime between now and then we hear from Juju about where he wants to go.
I completely agree. I think Juju and his father have mentioned this on a couple of different occasions that they'd rather have this decision kind of locked up before the season starts so he can, kind of focus on his final season at the high school level. And I think that's a smart thing to do. And again, I just don't think Coach Prime tweets out what he did the other day.
Right.
Pretty much subtweeting Juju in that situation.
Yes.
Without thinking that, Juju might be on his way to Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it that way. So it's going to be interesting. And again, I think Quanell is certainly a puzzle piece because that boy can really play.
Yeah.
He's kind of seems like that bona fide outside receiver, who you could really grow with and develop with and come in with. And because obviously he's going to be surrounded by other talents already on the team.
Of course.
Cam, Michael, just talking about young guys.
Yeah,
Traylon, Cordell, Omarion. Yeah, he's going to be surrounded by talent, whoever this next quarterback for the Buffs is in 2025 and beyond. So if Quanell is another piece of that, they've already added a couple offensive linemen. Chauncey Good in the blue chip. Jay Gardenhire, 6'8", 350.
Yeah.
So he's going to be insulated for sure. And I think, again, I've been on that train for a while now. I think it's just a matter of time. We'll see how soon that comes, though.
I agree, bro. Let's get into some EA College Football 25 stuff. This also came out during media days, so we haven't really been able to touch on it. But they put out their top 100 players. 3 players tied at the top: Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State running back; Will Campbell, LSU left tackle; Will Johnson, Michigan cornerback, all at 96. Travis not in that group. And personally, I thought he had a chance to join the 99 club.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I actually asked T-Mac about his rank because he's in 94, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, you happy with it? Like, are you rocking with it? He was just like, they can't make everybody happy. And I'm like, you know what, bro? That's the right way to look at it. They really can't make everybody happy. I guess I was kind of expecting, 199 or 98 at least.
Right.
But I guess I understand them not doing it. But, I guess I'm a bit surprised that Will Johnson, for example, is rated higher than Travis Hunter. Obviously, Will Johnson is arguably, to many people's eyes, the top corner in college football.
Yeah, top player for some.
Yeah, no doubt. And rightfully so. But yeah, I guess I was a bit surprised that Travis Hunter wasn't, tied at least for the top overall rating. But it's just ratings, and it's still preseason, and I think it's really cool that they'll be able to update it during the season as guys play games and ball out and whatnot.
So Travis comes in at 10th on the list. He's tied at 95 overall with a handful of players. Really, it's the next group after the top 96. So it's Caleb Downs, James Pierce Jr., Malachi Starks, Mason Graham, Quinshawn Judkins, Tate Ratledge, and then Travis Hunter. They're all rated 95 overall.
Yeah.
Shedeur is at 24. He's rated 93 with a ton of other dudes as well. But he's tied for the highest rated quarterback with Carson Beck. But the interesting thing about this, Scott, we saw the overalls for, offense, defense, the team overall for Colorado in the top 25.
Yep.
But those are the only the only 2 players in this top 100 list.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It makes you think about what are the rankings of the other guys, and how they kind of arrived at that top 25 overall kind of team ranking. Who would be your guess as to who would be that third kind of highest ranked player on the team?
So I go to what Coach Prime said at his press conference at Big 12 Media Day. He wants 4 first-rounders. BJ Green being one of them.
Right.
I could see BJ being up there.
Same.
I think the other one he's talking about is LeJontay Wester, though. And I think he's going to be the next highest-rated guy on this team.
I would love to see that. I said last time I was on the show that LeJontay is the one player I'm most looking forward to watch this fall. I think he's just electricity in a bottle, a big play waiting to happen, a touchdown waiting to happen. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm curious to see how they kind of justify, his size and whatnot with his ranking and whatnot, because I think that's probably the one knock on him in terms of his potential NFL future is that he's not very tall or kind of heavy, but he makes up for that in terms of the way that he runs routes, what he does after the catch. And that's something I asked him this spring, like how have you been able to set FAU's all-time leading receptions mark as somebody who's, maybe 5'10", 5'11", maybe 170 pounds. And he goes, it's in me. It's not on me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you gotta be different at that size to be as productive as he is. And that comes to in his prowess as a punt returner as well. That's something he talks about. You got to be different to be back there when you looking up trying to catch a punt and there's 11 dudes trying to take your head off.
Yeah, for sure. Bro.
So that's different. I'm really excited to see LeJohntay. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was one of the top 4 or 5 kind of ranked guys for CU in the game.
Yeah, I mean, with the offense being ranked as highly as it is, I think it has to be an offensive guy. So that's just immediately where I go. Is LeJohntay. I mean, you could throw out maybe Jimmy Horn, any of the other wide receivers. Will Shepard could probably be in that conversation too for the next highest rated guy. I don't think I see any of the running backs being that high at this point. And I guess maybe Jordan Seaton could be in the conversation. I don't know who you'd pick on the offensive line.
Yeah, I guess I think you guys mentioned to me that PFF had a pretty big role in the game and whatnot. So maybe Justin Mayers, who is CU's kind of highest graded offensive lineman by PFF. So maybe I would probably guess that he's probably has the highest rated for the offensive line. But Preston Hodge as well. I would think he would probably be up there close to a 90, probably 87,
Absolutely.
89 range. It'll be interesting. I think Shiloh kind of mentioned to me in that 101 way what his rating is, and he thought it was fair, and I thought it was fair as well.
Yeah,
it's in that kind of mid 80.
Okay,
right in that mid 80. So if he wasn't too mad about it, it's all right. So I think it would be interesting to see what the rest of that secondary in particular looks like in terms of their rating.
Definitely. Some other Big 12 guys. You mentioned Tedero McMillan. He's at 16th at 94 overall. I'm scrolling through here. Devin Neal, Kansas running back. He's at 29th with a 92 overall.
A lot of Big 12 guys who the Buffs are going to be seeing this year.
Yep. Taj Brooks is up there at a 92 overall. That's the Texas Tech running back.
Yep.
We've got Dante Corleone, the Cincinnati defensive tackle. He's a 91 overall.
The boy's a player. I hope he's all right. He's obviously has that blood clot issue in his lungs. Boy's a baller, though. Hopefully we can see him on the field again soon.
And then Luke Kandra, that's a Cincinnati right guard. So Cincinnati looking tough in the trenches right now.
Yeah, I had him on my all Big 12 kind of preseason team.
Oh, nice.
For the media. So, Cincinnati got a couple really good linemen. I don't think they're going to be very good.
Right.
But they got some really good linemen on both sides of the ball.
Torrey Horton comes in, 91 overall.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, Kansas cornerback. Jalen Daniels is in there. And then Nick Martin, Oklahoma State middle linebacker, makes the list as well.
He was my vote for Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12.
Oh, really?
In the preseason,
Nice, all right.
Scott
knows ball, man.
I appreciate that, man. You and I both.
Yes, sir. Briefly on Road to Glory here, they kind of put out a deep dive yesterday. This game just looks so deep and incredible. It looks like they really listened to the fan base, to the community. Features that we were asking for 11 years ago are coming into the game. You can create a burner to defend yourself on your road to glory.
Was that real? I saw a tweet. I wasn't sure if that was actually real.
I hope it's real, bro. Could you imagine? Jeez.
Man, they it definitely detailed for sure. I mean, and it better be they had 10, 11 years to put this together. Yes. But no, man, I think the detail is gonna be very interesting, man. I can't wait to get my hands on that game and play that for the first time. It's been a long time, man. I think that 07 or 09, whichever one Reggie Bush was on back in the day, man.
Oh, yeah.
I spent a whole summer. I'm talking about wake up, turn the game on till I go to sleep. And that was my summer for at least one of those games for sure. So it's gonna be dope.
You could play as a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, middle linebacker, cornerback.
I saw that too. Why limit positions?
I don't know.
At least, why can't you be an edge rusher?
Right.
Or something like that, or even like a safety.
Safety
I guess
is like
that's odd.
Safety is one of the most fun positions to play in those video games.
Because you have so much range and whatnot. So that's an odd decision, but I guess you can't make everybody happy, I suppose.
You can't, and you got to remember, it's their first year back. I think we're expecting another game next year, too. I think we're fully back.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
The customization is crazy, though. You can start off as like a 60 overall, like an underdog, or you can start off as an elite player.
That. Right. That was dope.
Super cool. The transfer portal's in there as well. So if you wanted to, you can commit to a school and then you could say, deuces, I'm going to go to a higher level.
Yeah, man, the detail is crazy, man. I just can't wait to play it.
Mini games, you got to manage your campus stuff, your brand, all this stuff, man. It just looks amazing. We're a few days away. Academics, all that in there. Another break here. Shout out to our friends over at Coors Light. I tell you what, I needed a few Coors Lights when I was out in Vegas because, man, that shit was hot as hell. How did you manage the heat out there, bro?
Barely. That's how I did it. Barely, man. Hey, good shout out to the AC in the Allegiant Stadium. Was live, but hey, stepping outside, man, it's like stepping outside. I mentioned earlier into a crock pot. You know, it's like a hot fan.
Such a great comparison.
Blowing air at you. It was crazy. I think I mentioned it to you or maybe one of the other guys. I went and grabbed some food probably at like 9:30 p.m. First night there. It's still 110 degrees at 9:30 p.m. I'm like, what are we even doing here? What's
crazy,
what's
bro.
really going on? But other than that, Vegas was good to us for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, that weather was not.
So if you're out there in Vegas, you need to chill. Grab a Coors Light. If you're out here in Denver, come out and hang out with us at the DNVR bar. We got Coors Light on tap. We got the silver bullets. We got the stubby banquet bottles as well. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. You can get it delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And then, of course, shout out to our wonderful friends over at Circa Sportsbook. It's always a good time going out to Vegas, hanging out at Circa Resort and Casino. That place is honestly probably my favorite place out in Vegas. But if you're not able to make it out there, download the Circa Sportsbook app if you're out here in Colorado. They're one of the only few sports books left that handcraft their lines, so you might get a little bit more juice on those underdogs, on those plus money bets. The interface is clean. They got great customer service. Download the app at circasports.com. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in the state of Colorado. You must be 21 or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. And if you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org. King Mars says you're crazy if you're drinking in that heat. I think that's the only way to beat the heat. Yeah, that's the only way to beat the heat. All right, just a few news and notes here before we get to the Toyota chat and get to questions today. We're still dealing with a lot of this realignment stuff. So bowl tie-ins. This kind of came out recently from Brett McMurphy of the Action Network. It sounds like the Pac-12 bowl tie-ins are going to hold over this year. So
Gotcha.
While, of course, these teams are coming into the Big 12 and they are Big 12 members, they're not going to be tied to those bowl tie-ins just because of previous contracts and stuff.
Interesting.
So those bowls, for those wondering, are the Alamo Bowl, Holiday Bowl, Las Vegas Bowl, the Sun Bowl, Los Angeles Bowl, and the Independence Bowl. This will be the case for 24-25. Those 6 tie-ins are going to be for Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. As we move forward.
So is that for the next 2 seasons?
Next 2 seasons, yes, sir.
Interesting.
Alamo Bowl out in Houston, am I right? Houston, San Antonio, something like that.
Sounds about right.
San Antonio, so
Yeah.
that's a location. The Sun Bowl.
I think the Independence Bowl, ain't that the one in Yankee Stadium, if I'm not mistaken?
I think you're right, man.
Yeah. That'll be cool. A little different, a little venue.
It's the games that happen there are always a little interesting. I remember watching Josie Jewell, who's a Bronco now, Iowa playing in that bowl, and it was so cold up there, right?
Yeah.
You're up in New York.
Facts.
The field was they had to bring in a new field, of course, over the baseball diamond, right? But it was for some reason the field was frosting over, and so guys were slipping all over the place on that field. But
That's crazy.
yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of playing football games on non-football fields. That's for sure.
What else do we got? Sun Bowl, I believe, is in El Paso, Los Angeles. You know where that is. Holiday Bowl. You have any idea where that is?
Don't. LA would be smooth though, man. It's gonna be interesting, man. I know I see some people in the chat talking about Buffs are gonna be in the playoffs anyway, so these little bowls don't matter.
It may not even matter. Holiday Bowl, San Diego would gladly take that in December.
Anything in Cali, I'm with it. I'm there for sure ski.
So there you go. That's just something to watch out for as we advance through this season. What else we got? Updated Heisman odds. This is from ESPN. Can you guess who their top-rated player is on these Heisman odds?
By ESPN, the top.
ESPN.
I'm just going to say Carson Beck because
He's second.
Interesting. This is a quarterback, I'm assuming?
It is a quarterback. I'll give you one more guess before I tell you.
I'm not sure, man. Give me the conference.
SEC.
It can't be Nico.
No. It's Dylan
Is it
Gabriel.
Dart? Oh, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, plus 750. He's their favorite.
Interesting.
Anthony Davis's Independence Bowl is in Shreveport, Louisiana. So there you go. Quinn Ewers comes in third. Jackson Dart fourth. Will Howard fifth.
Fourth.
Nico Amaleva sixth.
Will Howard.
Jalen Milroe. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Cam Ward at Miami. Connor Wigman at Texas A&M is next. I missed a name there, Scott. What name did I miss?
Maybe a Colorado quarterback.
Maybe a Colorado quarterback.
Shedeur Sanders. I mean, some of those last four guys that you mentioned are interesting because they're popular kind of dark horse candidates, and I get it. Like Wigman has like NFL potential.
Yes.
Like, Cam Ward, because of his dual threat ability, if Miami ends up getting to like 9 to 10 wins, like he could be in the mix, assuming he stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I understand because if you're the media, if you don't think that Colorado is going to be very good, if you don't think they're going to be able to get to 8+ wins, then they're not going to have a Heisman Trophy candidate. But if we're talking about in terms of talent,
I led you
there's
astray.
no doubt. There's no doubt that Shedeur belongs at the very least in the top 10.
I led you astray. Dylan Gabriel is not at Oklahoma. He's at Oregon now. So he's in the Big Ten, not the SEC. That's my bad.
Okay, it's all good. It's all
bad.
good.
But yeah, it's crazy, man. They put out that, like, I don't know where it came from, but yesterday someone did like a EA CFB like simulation thing.
Yeah, for Shedeur, right?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Shedeur wins the Heisman Trophy.
Like 48 tugs.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
7 picks. Which, I mean, I can see it.
Yes.
Again, 3,200 yards. What was it, 27 touchdowns?
27-3, he had 4 rushing.
Missing 2 games.
Yep.
Missing 2+ games behind an offensive line that allowed him to be pressured 200+ times, to be sacked 50+ times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all expect the offensive line to be improved. We all expect him to have one of the best receiving corps in the country.
Right.
Assuming health. I just don't understand. I don't see really a path that he isn't one of the top 5 most productive quarterbacks in college football this season.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we talk about it all the time on this show, and a lot of people like to hate on it when you talk about Shedeur and what he's going to be capable of doing this year. But just talking to that dude at Big 12 Media Days, he's so comfortable. He's so ready. I think just the combination of everything, Pat Shurmur at OC, knowing that the defense is just going to be better as a whole, knowing what he's got on the offensive line and all these weapons he's brought in. I mean, he's primed for a massive season, and he will be in Heisman Trophy contention, especially if he goes through this non-conference slate. These first 3 games. Say he throws, I don't know, 15 touchdowns the first 3 games.
And I think it's certainly possible.
Of course.
Especially out the gate, for sure. And I think the biggest thing with Shedeur is his mentality is really focused on winning. You'll never hear him talk about stats or what he wants to do from an individual perspective as a passer or whatnot. He and Shiloh, that was kind of their biggest thing really this week is we're not really worried about none of the other stuff that y'all talking about other than winning games. Yes. Because they realize that's really the only way that you're going to shut people up. Mm-hmm. And even then you still might not to a certain group, but that's the ultimate, the be-all, is just winning. And I think obviously Coach Prime, that was a big thing that he talked about this week is that's what you got to do. And that's everybody's goal, whether you're trying to get to the NFL, whether you're trying to become a starter, whether you're trying to, just rise the depth chart. That's the biggest goal. And I think that's the part of the culture that Coach Prime has built with this group in particular, with a lot of experienced guys, a lot of guys who have played a lot of college football who understand that that's really the most important thing. All other stuff, all the accolades is going to come when you do what you need to do out on the field.
No, well said, man. I think that's really the biggest takeaway just talking to those guys at Media Day was it was just such a I guess, comfort with where they are right now. And the ability to block the outside noise, I think, is so easy for them. Not only because they know what this team is and what they're about to do, but they know that everyone else just isn't aware.
Yeah.
And that they know that when they just go out on the field and do what they're capable of doing, they're going to shut a lot of people up. They're going to surprise a lot of people too. And it's just how this season's going to go. Like, I'm sorry. I don't really see it any other way other than Shedeur balling out, this team being better.
Yeah.
They're going to win more than 4 games. I'm confident in that.
100%.
And a lot of people are going to have to eat their words.
Yeah, man. And it's going to be interesting. And again, a lot was made of Shedeur's comment this week talking about we're going to be everybody's Super Bowl.
Right.
But again, kind of what I talked about earlier, I expect them to come out the gate 3-0. Mm-hmm. Believe they opened the Big 12 slate with Baylor, right? If I'm not mistaken. Very winnable game.
Mm-hmm. At home.
If you're 4-0, you are going to be everybody's Super Bowl at that point in the season.
Of course.
Obviously, you're talking about with all the antics that come with Colorado and, the way that they carry themselves. But again, at that point, you're a 4-0 Colorado football team. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. All them Big 12 teams are going to want to be that first team to humble and knock off Colorado this season. So, again, whatever Shedeur says in that context is going to be taken out of context and blown out of proportion. Right. But if you really look at it, he's not lying.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That boy keeping it 100. There's no cap in his rap. That's real life. CU is going to be teams Super Bowl, even in their first year in a new conference, even after a 4-8 season. That's just the reality of the situation. Again, assuming they take care of business first 3 weeks of the season, which I think we all expect them to.
Yes, sir. All right, Alyssa, I sent you a video. Shedeur spoke a lot, of course, at the Big 12 Media Days. There's a lot going on. So, we're still trying to catch up, as we come back and just see what else is all out there. And there's a lot more to come. Shout out Dukes, by the way. Philip Dukes of On3. He's got a exclusive with Coach Prime out there right now.
Shout out that boy Dukes, man. It was dope to be able to meet him for the first time this week. Obviously, we chopped it up virtually. He's holding things down there in Atlanta for On3. But, yeah, Dukes is a great guy. And go check out, his interview exclusive interview with Coach Prime.
Yes, sir. Okay. But Shedeur, he goes around. He talks to a lot of people. He ends up on because for BYU has like a football channel or something.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that?
Not until this week. Like I saw they had like their own little thing for Radio Row, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of unique. But they had a whole little setup with everybody. So that's shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean they've got it rolling there.
Yeah.
But Shedeur and apparently Shiloh gave a great interview on that one, so go check that out. But Shedeur was asked a lot about his game on this BYU interview.
I almost forgot where we were going for a second, but yeah.
You know where we're going. Just let me know when you're ready, Alyssa. But
I'm dead.
Worst case, I can just say what's going on. But I think some people know where we're about to head here. That's fine. Yeah, just play the audio if you got it.
QB right now in the NFL, who would you say your game most resembles?
We was talking about that Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm a Bengals fan,
so.
Not a bad
Joe Burrow. And why I say is because he's sneaky fast. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's able to deliver the ball, be able to do that. So that's who I would say.
Okay.
In high school, I used to watch Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I watched him straight from high school when his junior year of high school on, and when he went to Georgia. We visited Georgia when he was there, then after that he went to Ohio State and stuff. So that was somebody I looked at, that I admired a lot of things that he did. Is he gonna be on offense or defense?
Defense.
What are you talking about?
That was my follow-up question.
Scott.
He didn't even hesitate either. He said, "Oh yeah, we just talked about this, Joe Burrow."
Look, man.
No hesitation. I know that's exactly what you wanted to hear this morning when you woke up.
We did a show a few weeks ago doing NFL comparisons for a lot of notable players on this roster. And when we got to Shedeur, and it's been something I've been thinking about really since the middle of last year, watching him play.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Joe Burrow. And I think he could have a senior year explosion like Joe Burrow had last year. We're talking about Heisman Trophy contention this year.
Yeah.
Number 1 overall pick contention. These are all things Joe Burrow did. These are all things that are right in front of Shedeur Sanders.
100%.
So to whom it may concern, I'll just say I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. And if there's one thing I know right now, it's Colorado football and these players. So
hey, talk your mess, Jake, man. Let them know that you're not new, bro. You really do this. You really do this for a living. But no, I love the Joe Burrow comparison. I also love that Shedeur mentioned as a Bears fan, as a Justin Fields fan. I love that he mentioned, Justin Fields is kind of somebody that he watched, especially with how kind of Justin Fields, the narrative around him here recently, still a very talented quarterback, a young quarterback who still has a lot of room to grow as well. But no, I love the Joe Burrow, comparison for sure. And it's definitely something that's come to my mind. Obviously, you can see the stylistic similarities,
right.
Kind of pocket passers ideally, but when a play breaks down, they can use their legs to extend plays, to move the chains with their legs, and their superpower is accuracy in their processor, how quickly they process things up top, how quickly they can read defenses, and just their ball placement. I think that's what kind of sets them apart. That translates to every single level. Being able to be accurate and being able to process and anticipate your receivers and whatnot, and also anticipate where the defense is going to be.
Right.
Can I toss in a comparison?
Of course, bro.
Some people might not like this, and I swear it's not disrespectful. And I think if you're looking at it, I think it makes sense. But one comp that comes to mind for me for Shedeur is Jared Goff. And some people might say, Jared Goff, Jared Goff is a former number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Who was cold at Cal. Over 3,000 yards, 30-plus touchdowns, similar to what Shedeur did last season. Again, number 1 overall pick. Played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Was just in the NFC Championship game last year. And again, kind of the same things. Those similarities in terms of accuracy is their superpower. They can place the ball wherever they want to with anticipation, with timing. And obviously, Shedeur and obviously Joe Burrow as well are certainly more athletic than Jared Goff is. But from a stylistic perspective, the way that they're able to be so accurate with the football. And again, Jared Goff he went number 1 overall for a reason. He helped lead his team to a Super Bowl for a reason. Obviously, that was a lot of Todd Gurley and Sean McVay and whatnot. And again, we saw it again this year, leading the Detroit Lions team to the NFC Championship. I think that's something that, Shedeur can definitely kind of tap into at the next level for sure.
Man, I actually really like that. Jared Goff's last year at Cal, threw 529 passes, completed 65% of them, 4,719 yards, 43 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. And, man, I've been a Jared Goff believer for a long time. I think he got disrespected a lot those last few years in L.A., and I'm really happy to see him ball out.
And he could
have
very easily just faded into the background after that whole Rams tenure. But went to a team that a couple years ago everybody thought was one of the worst teams in the NFL. And again, a few months ago they were playing, really should have been in the Super Bowl. Really a couple plays away from the Super Bowl. So,
just to put a bow on this whole thing, going back to Joe Burrow, and we talked to Mike Sanford on Tuesday at Big 12 Media Days, and we were kind of asking him about Shedeur, and he said the trait that stands out to him the most about Shedeur is his toughness.
Yeah,
and that's the same thing with Joe Burrow too. Obviously, he's dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff, some stuff out of his control. I always think back to that last game before the 2019 season when they played UCF in I think it was a BCS bowl.
And he was bent over, and
you know exactly what I'm talking about. He got absolutely destroyed,
100%.
Decleated.
Yeah.
Gets pops right back up. It's almost like that moment kind of started the next year. Yeah. So the toughness, I think, is exactly what you see in Shedeur and in Jared.
And you got to have it where he's going. Where he's going, the NFL being the top first-round pick, you got to have it because, most likely in the NFL as a rookie, if you're drafted as high as we think Shedeur will be, you're probably not going to have a great offensive line. You're probably not going to have the best weapons. You might have 1 or 2 that you can trust, but especially early on, before a team can really build around their franchise quarterback, you might have to take some lumps like Joe Burrow did as a rookie. And again, that's important. When you got, with the caliber of pass rushers in the NFL now, them dudes 6'6", 260 plus running 4.4, 4.5. So when they hit you, you're going to feel that. And again, it's football. You're going to get hit, especially when you got the ball in your hands as much as the quarterback does. So toughness is certainly something that you need, and it's something that Shedeur obviously has.
One last name I'll throw out there, just because I think people throw this name out there as like a slight to Shedeur, but they use Geno Smith. Let's just remember that Geno Smith's senior year of college, he completed 71.2% of his passes for 4,200 yards, 42 touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
42-6 touchdown interception ratio is unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
So there's an area that like a grouping that we're talking about with Shedeur.
You can see it. There are some prospects where you, at quarterback position in particular, where you're like, we haven't seen a comp like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But clearly with Shedeur, and it's talented guys too. It's productive guys in the NFL who you could feasibly compare Shedeur to, and I think that's gonna help him in the draft process, and it's gonna be interesting. I really do think the Raiders are a team to watch. Depending on how the season goes, they clearly opted not to draft a quarterback this past year when they probably could have. Rolling into this year with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, those aren't your long-term answers at the position.
Right.
So depending on how this year goes, I can certainly see Shedeur and even Shiloh end up in Las Vegas. Because one thing that I kind of peeped, it was actually at Xavier Weaver's pro day.
Yeah.
The Raiders were one of like 12 or 13 NFL teams there.
Yeah.
And whoever was there on behalf of the Raiders as a scout spent a lot of time talking with both Shedeur and Shiloh. So, and obviously Coach Prime met with some Raiders members of the organization this week while they were in Vegas. So keep an eye on that.
I love that, bro. Great stuff. Let's get to the Toyota chat. Let's wrap this thing up. What do you guys got today? Also, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the podcast, and follow my guy Scott here. Let him know where we can follow you at.
Yes, sir. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scott Procter _Procter, spelled Procter, now with an O. And go follow my work at Coloradoan.com. New content, exciting content coming real soon here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Big 12 Media Day stuff still coming out, so make sure you tune in. Who's up first? Cortland Perkins. This is a good one. We haven't talked about this yet.
Yeah.
Did y'all comment on Coach Prime saying Trevor Woods can be Brian Urlacher type linebacker? I thought that was significant and surprising praise.
That wasn't the first time Coach Prime mentioned Brian Urlacher and Trevor Woods in the same sentence. I'm sure you know that. And it's not really surprising to me because I've done 2 projections for the Colorado starting defense in depth, one in January and another one kind of right after spring ball. Trevor Woods is my starting linebacker still. Yeah. Even with the additions with Nikai Hill-Green and Johnny Chaney Jr., I think Trevor Woods is going to start at linebacker alongside Nikai Hill-Green after making that transition from linebacker. And again, Coach Prime, he wasn't asked about Trevor Woods. He brought him up. He brought him up, and he brought up the comparison to Brian Urlacher. And again, it's not the first time he's mentioned that. I think Trevor Woods is underrated. Me and you have talked about this
we have.
Behind the snes. For whatever reason, people like to look at Trevor Woods like how they like to look at him, but he was productive last year. Playing different positions, whether you had him in the secondary or at linebacker late in the year, he made plays. I think he's gotten better, stronger, obviously, this offseason. He's a starting linebacker to me.
I love that, man. Brian Urlacher, he actually went to New Mexico, my alma mater, but he played like Trevor. Started at safety.
Yep.
And then I don't think it was till the NFL that he converted to linebacker, right?
I think you're right. No, I think you're right, yeah.
So obviously Trevor's going through that transition a lot sooner, and I think people were very hard on him for that last year because let's be honest, man, changing positions, especially when you're moving closer to the line of scrimmage,
that is not easy.
It's not easy at all. And, a lot of people are saying in the chat, he doesn't have the size that Brian Urlacher has. And you know what? Fair. Because Brian Urlacher was a first-round player, and it was because of his size and his speed and that ability. But Trevor, his strength is his mind. And we've heard Coach Prime say that multiple times. We've heard defensive coaches say that multiple times. So if there's anyone that can figure out a new position, I think it's Trevor Woods. Physical limitations aside, we'll see how that works out. But this is a very smart football player. He's going to make an impact again this season for the Buffs.
No doubt about it.
Who's next? Stephen Procter. You know who that is?
My pops.
Let's go.
My dad. Shout out pops, man. SOP. What's the word?
He says, can you talk about the RBs and will they be better in blocking and pass pro this year?
Great question.
Where do you want to go with it?
Talk about the RBs, man. It's going to be interesting. Dallin Hayden, transfer from Ohio State, is who I expect to kind of be the lead back. But Coach Prime this week, unsolicited, said that Charlie Arfeldahl, former walk-on, now on scholarship, is pretty much a starter, that those other guys got to come and take that spot from him. So that's going to be interesting. Isaiah Gustav as well, a transfer from Arkansas, has some real juice. And actually, I don't even think I mentioned this in a story or out loud, but when I was talking to Dukes a couple weeks ago, he mentioned that Gustav reminds him a lot of Dylan Edwards in terms of his ability to kind of be slippery, explosive, out in open field. So that would be, a lot of people are sad about the, Dylan Edwards moving on to Kansas State because he's a really talented player.
For sure.
But if Augusta has that same kind of skill set, which it looks like he does, that could be, kind of an underrated aspect of this offense with obviously Hayden and bowling ball that is true freshman Michael Welch.
Yes, sir.
I think they have some really differing skill sets in that running back room. And in terms of the pass protection and blocking up front, the offensive line, Pops. I'm really talking about Pops. Pops, that'd be a question.
Hell yeah.
But the up front, they should just be much better. Experienced, productive guys they brought into the transfer portal. Shedeur should be much better protected. This run game should be a lot better as a result of it.
I got to throw out Isaiah Harge too, man. I'm not going to ignore that spring game performance. He's an athlete. He's someone who they've tried to find a spot for him all over the field. And I think they might have found it at running back. People are going to mention Brandon Hood in the chat, of course. I mean, he's a guy who's got a lot of pop coming in. Cam Michael as well. Could he, kind of shift to running back, be more of a speed threat out of the backfield? So it's a very interesting backfield. In terms of pass pro, they've gotten bigger. Micah's a big back, or he's a thick back. But Hayden's a big back. Augustav is a big back. So there's more size in that room, and I think more proven experience. So I think they'll be better all the way around.
Agreed.
Shelly asks, what about Hank being the starting center likely? Yeah, Coach Prime, he also, I can't remember, I think it was an ESPN interview or whatever. He basically named the starting offensive line.
Yeah, which is what, I had projected and most people, kind of saw, which was, I think it's great that they're not still kind of shuffling.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have about 8 or 10 guys that they feel comfortable starting, but they have a good feel of who that starting five is going to be, and that's awesome.
Yeah, well, just right now, if you feel good with a starting five right now before you even get into fall camp, I think that says a ton about where we're at with this offensive line.
Because I don't know last year if that was the case. Again, I wasn't here covering the team, but I don't know if that starting five offensively was kind of figured out before fall camp kind of began.
No, I mean, we kind of had an idea, but like the Tyler Brown stuff didn't come through until August, and we figured he would be a big piece. Coach Prime said it was from left to right: Jordan Seaton, Tyler Brown, Hank Zilinskas, Justin Mayers, Khalil Benson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What else we got? James asks, what do you feel is CU's basement and ceiling for the number of first-round draft picks after this season? The basement's 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say the ceiling is 4. I think that's fair enough.
I agree.
For first-round draft picks, again, that's rare.
Yeah.
To have, multiple from one school, go in the first round. Obviously, like I said, 2 is a lot. I think at this point. But there's definitely room for a BJ Green. I think potentially a Deion Hayes, potentially a Preston Hodge.
Yep.
I think that's the range for sure.
Exactly what I was gonna say. Guys that I would throw in as like first round watch would be Deion Hayes, Chidozie Nwankwo if he has a big season. Maybe someone like Tyler Brown or Khalil Benson if they come out and just have a fantastic season.
Yeah,
could enter the conversation. Sure. So. And last one here before we get out today. Doyle asked, how many yards do you think we will rush against North Dakota State? Interesting question. Last year, this was the worst rushing team in college football. I think they averaged, it was like 68, 69 yards rushing per game.
Yeah.
If you double that and get around to 120, 130, that's about halfway in terms of CFB rankings, so around 60 to 70th. I've always said if you get to that, that's where Florida State was last year. They had Jordan Travis, a guy who threw a lot of touchdowns, played very well for them. But they also had a pretty complimentary run game. It obviously wasn't focus of their offense, but they had it.
I think it's a good comp.
Do you want to give a number?
Yeah, I would think they just crack 100. Like I would say like 104 or 105. I think Shedeur's going to throw for 300 plus. So, I think the run game is going to be more effective kind of when they get in close. But yeah, I think the last time I was on there, they asked me for a prediction for that game, and I think I said like 38-17 CU, which I still feel confident in. But yeah, I would say they run for just over 100 yards, and Shedeur has an excellent opening debut of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd probably say around there, 100, 125. I do think this team early on is going to emphasize the run game. I think they want to show that they can run the football and prove that point.
Yeah.
But, we all know that it's Shedeur's team. It's all going to fall on his shoulders, this receiving core. So it kind of comes secondary in that regard. You just need it to be complementary.
100%.
You don't need it to be a strength. Scott, this was awesome, brother. Thank you so much for coming in. You
Yes,
absolutely
sir.
killed it once again, man.
Appreciate you always just having me, Jake, man. It's a blast.
Yeah, we'll have you again very, very shortly. Fall camp. I mean, when we come back on Monday, we're 2 weeks away, brother. So we'll be making it happen.
Woo-wee.
RK will be back very soon. Shout out to Alyssa behind the scenes. We've got more Big 12 content coming as well. We actually have a behind the scenes video from our guy RG that will be up here later today, and a few other things. So stay tuned. See you guys soon. Let's go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.